Hey people, CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 34 of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All. Last time, we finished up cross-examining Old Bag. We basically, we put a subpoena on Adrian, and we basically are cross-examining her. What is wrong with me? And we discovered that once more, my incompetence shines through like a freaking megawatt light bulb, because I didn't read, there's Corda's fingerprints. I was looking over the evidence right after, no more than 10 seconds after I got this video done. So anyways, yes. Yes, guitar case, boom, there we go. There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on the guitar case are those of the victim. What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time? Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the award ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. That's strange. You were wearing gloves. Isn't that a little strange? Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? Oh, right. The grape... Yes, this. I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass? You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Yes, yeah, I have my skills. Like I said, I know how the case plays out. I know the events of everything that happens. It's just... It's basically the main issue I have is getting from point A to point B, essentially. Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Just Adrian has like about 1,000 spare pairs of glasses. Order!
Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time.
What do you mean?
I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here.
But it's just an empty case.
I wonder if it really was empty, though.
But the guitar. The private guitar was at the studio.
Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in this guitar case was not the bright red guitar.
You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, that's not right either. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case... Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactics at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided... No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews had justified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in the photo of the crime scene. I am sure that the guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, Wright, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please, enlighten us on why this guitar case has anything to do at all with the murder. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean to suggest that a bright black guitar was... So, you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, right? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours! You haven't proven anything yet! Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder? It was basically the costume. This is a photograph. Yes, but what is important is what is in the picture, Your Honor. In the picture? It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is... Inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Wright, are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out our costume? What insane point would there be to do something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it there to hide her identity so she can make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea? Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? You mean this photo? Order! Order! It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we?
Nice job, Phoenix!
Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later. So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume. Wait 1 second, Your Honor! The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt Ungod's. Why would something of the defendant's be in the victim's room? Out inside the guitar case of all places. True. That is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case? It was a spare costume. Mr. Ungard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about was a spare one. What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewar Hotel? Yes, this is what I'm saying. And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would mean that the victim himself had planned to bring the spare to the ceremony. But why? The victim, Mr. Korda, was the Jammin' Ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai spare costume with him? What would be the reason behind such a peculiar act? Ah, so that's what he intended. What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue? Huh? No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had this Nickel Samurai spare costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer, and then answer with gusto. I believe in you.
Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai spare costume to the hotel was... What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference. A press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up right. But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Ungard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how can that be? The way I see it, that can only one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Corda himself. Yes, essentially, Olbag, she's like, I was sabotaging the set. Essentially, if her plan would have went through, she would have potentially risked hurting Juan. Yes, imagine Juan getting caught into the structure. Yeah, Juan being killed by Olbag. The victim? Yes, the spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Corda was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai. He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai at all the conference? But why would the victim do such a thing? That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference. The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Corda, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Ungard. Yes, I guess that's what it would mean. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's a public disclosure! But Miss Andrews, I can see why you are pros at what you do. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say, the press conference was set up by Juan. Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this! I was the one he asked to help set it up, and the person who prepared the second costume for him. That was also me. You? Juan had bet everything on the Jammin' Ninja this year, and if he lost the Grand Prix, He was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyways. He was going to ruin him, huh? It looked like somehow Juan had his hands on a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And you know what the secret of Mr. Ungard's is, Miss Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is. Oh, I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Mr. Ungard? And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what, and he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type.
We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit.
If there are no objections, I feel like I can pass the verdict based on this testimony. Now then, Mr. Wright, if you please.
Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to push my way into this and turn her logic upside down. Would you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit the crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix! They didn't teach that to us in school, at least not from what I remember. May I continue now? So, would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event and that hotel for that conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Ungard. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ungard himself didn't know anything about a press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Anyways, the important thing here is that this information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? Matt was napping. Okay. Matt was sleeping. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ungard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover Mr. Ungard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he was honestly sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can find no flaws in what Miss Andrews said. I can't say the same for some people here in the courtroom, however. The judge is glaring straight at Mia. He's glaring at you, smart guy! You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well have been clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? The buttons. Sorry about that. It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Matt's Hakama. Isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyways, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes.
Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this to your testimony.
And how do you know that?
When the ends of the threads on the button and the costume were matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly, or so I heard.
I heard that before too, but why would Miss Andrews know about the case down to such fine detail?
Don't look at me like that, just because I'm prepared and you are not.
Ugh! And I thought I had heard this time for sure. Is there anything to trip her up on? It has to be there. But where is it and what? If you were protecting him, why would you stop the conference? But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? And at the worst possible time. Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. Ungar at any time. Why then would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? It's the same reason why Mr. Corda planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. Ungar as much damage as she possibly could. This witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright Wax Philosophical Power Hour! Ooh, does that come on right after Kids Masterpiece Theater? And please stop slandering the witness. As I expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Really? Because to me, it sounded a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy? Well, I guess we'll see if I press her a little more. You should know this by now, but you need strong, decisive evidence. God, Chief, I'm gonna pin you down this time, Miss Andrews. Ah. Oof. Okay, that was not it. I was about to say, how would it get his Akama if it was ripped? Okay. I thought... Yes. Okay. Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. What is it? I don't think that one won any points. What is it? What is it? Alright. I think I got this. It's strangled. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by scarf. It says strangulation. The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Though the thing is, can you really blame me for getting confused? I mean, if you think about it, strangulation can mean one thing. I mean, you don't know if there was any sort of scuffle before that, and then he was just placed in the seat, you know? Strangling can happen from the far back, you know? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume, right? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly, which means it's impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was was conscientiously pulled off of the victim's already dead body. Order! What is the meaning? What is the meaning of this right? So what if the button was torn off of the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean that you know that what the murderer wanted to do with the button? Answer this. To have a memento of the crime. To pin the crime on guard. There was only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ungard. There is no way anyone would put a blade button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. Ungard was set up. By the real killer, of course.
And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then?
Finally! I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point.
Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet. Not until the very end.
The real killer, the person playing the frame Mr. Ungard is... Miss Adrian Andrews, I choose you! Gotta catch them all, just you and me! Boo, 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 boo. It is our destiny! You try to flee from me, I convict you! Ace attorney mine! Prosecuting mine! Yeah, I was having to do the prosecuting mine song, but Edgeworth isn't singing it. You were Miss Corner's killer! What?
Order! Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge?
Any evidence? I have all the evidence! All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews! Well, how preposterous. You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then, well, what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Ungard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. But then, what about the button that was found in Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only person who could have done so was the person who found his body, or the killer. However, if Mr. Ungard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Ungard's hakama is the person who went and wake him from his nap, which is you yet again, Miss Andrews.
I see. Then what about this empty guitar case?
That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found in the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time.
That's right.
That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there is this photo. A photo of the killer as they exit the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on earth can believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Ungard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time.
Miss Andrews.
I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me.
Oh no, she's using the Constitution! Well, yes, you are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination. By allowing a witness to not testify, the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungard's room, Adrian Andrews! Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed, understood? Alright. Francisca using the Constitution against Phoenix. She's using political documents against Phoenix. That's it. That's when Francisca planted the idea into her head. She must have told S. Andrews not to testify if things looked bad.
You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix, but there's still one thing you haven't done.
Something I haven't done. What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
Why so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth?
I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to prove a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder one corridor.
But Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Corda?
I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering.
But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There is nothing to prove in either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No! She's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do?
Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation.
I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defendant's theory that she's actually the murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof.
But that's not true!
In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial...
Tomorrow? We don't have a tomorrow! If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This is about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya...
Well, it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... I'm keeping this going because this is actually one of Edgeworth's coldest as ice moments. It is not possible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth, what are you...
It's true Miss Andrews holds the right to against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to what she might be guilty of, then she might have no right to withhold testimony.
Yes, that is very true, but...
Actually, there is one little thing I'm curious about. Miss Andrews? When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and? I can't help but think now how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor? Actually, no, not yet. I would request that the witness testify as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness.
I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he a friend or foe? I just don't know.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Ms. Andrew, if you please.
Okay, this isn't that point yet. But Edgeworth's gonna get there. That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in a messy state. And he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something. So I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why did you say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial.
Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left.
I know, Edgeworth. What the heck is going on in that brain of yours?
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
Okay, I think now's a good time to end things off. I really appreciate that you took around to watch this episode. You're a great viewer. We come back for the next one. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want. And with that, I'll see you later. Bye.